So today we're welcoming Frenchie back to tell us the method of centering prayer. Hopefully you've already seen his witness talking about the effects of centering prayer. If you haven't, be sure to check out that video. But Frenchie did 32 years in the California State Prison System, 16 of which were at Folsom Prison, and he was one of the founding members of the first known centering prayer group inside a locked facility. So Frenchie, take it away.
Hello, everybody. I am Frenchie. That was the nickname given to me by the fellas at Folsom State Prison. While I was at Folsom State Prison, I was blessed to be able to become part of what we call the Contemplative Fellowship based around the practice of centering prayer. I'm going to today share how centering prayer is taught at Folsom State Prison. In the center of this diagram, you're going to see a little black dot. That little black dot represents who you are. This version of centering prayer deals with who you are, and it doesn't get into a lot of the religious aspects of the centering prayer, but teaches you a very basic method to do the centering prayer and to understand why we need to do centering prayer. So let's go back to that little black dot. That little black dot is if you strip everything away, all of your thoughts, all your feelings, all of who you are, you're that little black dot, the pure essence of reality. We all have that pure essence. Now, every individual is different, but every individual can be boiled down to that true essence of who we are. Now, one of the things that happens in our lives is we have a tendency to cover up that true essence. So if you take a moment, remember that what's the first thing that happened to you? If you were born in the United States, the doctor held you up by your ankles and smacked you on the tail end. Welcome to a violent world. That's the first part of this little diagram, and it starts drawing a little circle here around the dot. That circle represents a layer of what we call false self. As we grow, we start layering this false self. The first time that you got into an argument, you learned how to protect yourself. Oops, there's another little part of the false self. First time you got into an argument with your girlfriend, you learned how to protect yourself. You added more to that little false self. You continued all through your life. Everything that happens in your life begins to increase the amount of protection that we give ourselves. This protection lets us change into who we are now. And this false self is what we show the world. What we show the world is usually our best opinion of what we are. And all of those layers create that individual. Now, the one thing about centering prayer is it's a format or a method that allows you to literally cut through all these layers of the onion ring as you practice it. First off, you're going to pick a word. This word is called a sacred word, sacred in that it helps you let go of your thoughts. So the first thing you need to do is take and learn that word, begin to practice it by using it to let go of your thoughts. With centering prayer, it's a journey. It's not going to happen overnight, and it's not going to be a miraculous, hello, I'm fine. It's a long lifetime practice. I've been doing this since 1996, and I still got a long way to go. The truth of the matter is we all have this false self built up. So when you start using centering prayer, you can say your sacred word, and it cuts through all of that essence that we built around ourselves to the true essence. And it helps eventually to get rid of the false self. What happens during centering prayer is that we have a habit of learning how to let go. And you let go and you open your heart to God. Okay? So what happens is we have this little room in our minds. I call it the computer room. And in that room is all the files of everything we ever did. You open the door to that room and you look in there, and I tell you what, it's a mess. You got files drawers open everywhere, files sticking out, files on the floor, files on top of the cabinet. It's a wreck. That is our false self. Well, there's a little guy that handles all that input there. And as you start centering prayer, you use your sacred word and you let your thoughts go when you realize that you're thinking. Well, whatever you're thinking is, go back to this little room, and this little guy takes a look at that and says, oh, okay, here, look at this. And he throws something else up for you to think about. Well, the whole process of centering prayer is letting go. You don't want to get into these thoughts. You don't want to analyze. You don't want to try to figure things out. In fact, if you have that moment of epiphany and something totally awesome comes to your mind, just relax. It'll be there after the sit. You don't need to stop your sit. Just relax and let it go. And use that sacred word and find that little millisecond of silence before the next thought comes. That's where you cut through all the layers of the onion to the true self. And the bottom line is, if you do this practice 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening, you can then start learning how to let go of things, and it carries over into your real life. As I said, I've been doing this a lot of years, and slow but sure, that little computer room, when you open the door now, sure, there's files drawers are still open, there's files still sticking up, but all the files are up off the floor. I am in a much better position now than I used to be. Still got a long way to go. But the bottom line is that the centering prayer helps you let go of that. It also, every time you use that sacred word, you're opening your heart or creating the intent to let God work in your life. That's the spiritual and religious aspect of this. The prayer part of it is where God can come in and work at changing things in your life. Again, this is subtle. You're not going to have a 1 minute I'm sitting here, the next minute I'm a perfect individual. You have all those layers of the onion skin that you got to peel back, and all the layers of this diagram that go on and show you all the different layers that we built up in our lives. So centering prayer is just a simple form of learning how to let go, learning how to grow, learning how to get closer to God, and let God act in your heart. When you go to practice your centering prayer, you get yourself comfortable. You find your feet flat on the floor. You can lay down, you can stand up, you can do centering prayer in any position that you're comfortable with. Then you gently, like a feather landing on a piece of cotton, introduce your sacred word, whatever that sacred word is, and let your mind clear. Well, I'll guarantee you the first thing you're going to do is you're going to start thinking. And you use your sacred word, you let it go. So during this time, you don't want any interruptions. If you hear something or whatever, just use your sacred word and let it go. If somebody comes by your dorm or your cell and starts yelling, you just simply use your sacred word and let it go. Prison is a loud place. After 32 years of that wonderful establishment, I learned that you can block out the noise level, but the noise level itself can become part of your centering prayer. So when you're centering, you just use whatever is going on around you as another thing to let go of. I know when I was living in a dorm at Solano, there are no bars, there are no doors to keep your privacy. You let your bunkie know, you let the people around you know that you're going to meditate, and you meditate. But the whole thing is that you get comfortable. And also at the end of your sit, always think about some good thoughts before you come back to the real world.
So Lawrence is also in our group today, and he too has spent quite a bit of time behind the walls. Lawrence, is there anything you want to add?
Like Frenchie was saying, there's an inner being that we all have that, at least I'm convinced there's an inner being, and this inner being is like the essence of goodness that sometimes, because of our experience in life, it gets overwhelmed by just the circumstances of life. And just to bask in that goodness, it has a cumulative healing effect, and so how I got introduced to it, I was actually at Folsom Prison also years after Frenchie, when the group was kind of established. So the guidelines were kind of set, and they had passed the experimental stage, and facilitators knew what the process would entail. And so our instructions were the 4 R's, which was, of course, like Frenchie said, you get comfortable, you get a relaxed position, you get in a position where you don't have to fidget or move. And then the guidelines are: don't resist any thought, don't resist the thought, don't react to the thought, don't retain the thought, and then return to your sacred word. I'm listening for the silence in between the thought. And after a period of time, when you first start, I think those thoughts can have a tendency to overwhelm, and they'll seem uncomfortable. But if you're there in a circle with other like-minded individuals that will let no, it's just don't resist the thought. Don't let the thought just come. The thought will come, the thought will go. Don't resist the thought. Don't react to the thought. That was my first what do you call it? Not stumbling block, but first, like the thought would come in first, and I would just resist the thought. Oh, I don't want to think that thought. And then I would react to the thought. Oh, this thought is. Then I would retain the thought, and before I know it, I'm almost forgetting that my main thing is just to return to listening for the silence. There's a healing and there's a peace within that silence. After a while, you notice that it's not that difficult. Just let the thought go by. The thought would be almost like airplane noise. But then after that, you'll encounter your emotions, and the emotions will rise and fall, and you'll wonder, wow, I'm not really thinking nothing. Before the thought would create the emotion, but now you find that the emotion is just a wave that you're riding too. I'm sad, I'm happy, I'm sad, but then you learn to ride that, and then
breath and let it go.
Let it go. And then the reaction becomes way, way, way before you would get a thought. Thought would create an emotion would create action. Especially guys that have been in like incarcerated situations, they know that our thoughts created an emotion created an action. Out of that action, here we are. But now that the action is so far removed, you can actually, after a while, you'll be able to look at the thought in a detached way and realize, wow, you know what, that is just a thought. It's not necessarily a good thought or a bad thought. It's a thought that through my experience, I've created some type of meaning to. And then this emotion that comes with the thought, well, wow, you know what, I just don't really have to have that emotion with that thought, because I can just let the emotion, and then the action way removed. And then it's something about basking in that peace that has I think Father Thomas Keating, that I don't know if he initiated it or he brought it about. It's an ancient practice from out here. It goes back to, Desert Fathers and St. John of the Cross and all these spiritual beings. But it has a way of, there's something about that silence that's healing and it's cumulative. And it brings a peace, and the peace will carry over into your life. And the peace will give you a chance, because before you could actually be overwhelmed by your thoughts and your emotions and your actions but after a while, when you become more adept at it, you have to take responsibility that, a thought is just a thought, emotion is just an emotion, and the action is going to be consequences. And I think, for me, it's just the kind of practice that I would like to see everybody practicing this. I think it has to, for me, the reason why I'm so excited about this process, and I want to do everything I can to promote it, because I've noticed the transformative effects in my life. I think, man, back in the day, I probably could have been considered a terror. Make me mad, you're on the wrong side of the tracks with me. But now it's like my thoughts don't rule, and the thing they call the peace that passes understanding. I think what's so transformative about it is the peace becomes so nourishing to you that you won't let your circumstances of your life, because it's not going to change the circumstance. You're still going to be doing this 20 years, but now I can sit here in peace in myself, and somehow that actually transforms. It was magical for me. That's why I'm so enthusiastic about it, because it changed my outlook of everything being like, negative, and the world is against you, till, you know what, the world is really a pretty nice place. People are pretty, and you just start noticing more good and more goodness and more goodness and more goodness.
One of the surprises I found through centering prayer is, there's a whole lot of people that in prison that are not the most desirable of people. But I found when I was centering that I found a whole lot more like-minded people, a whole lot more people that were on my wavelength, as I began to practice and it began to take off at Folsom, that it made life a whole lot better inside the walls. And boy, I wouldn't do without it outside the walls. This world gets pretty tough. This world gets pretty tough. I need to let go of it. I need to find that 20 minutes, especially that 20 minutes of the afternoon. That's my highlight of my day. I need that time.
Frenchie, if you could tell us, is this process, does it feel peaceful? I've heard you
That's
guys.
what I wanted to get into. Lawrence reminded me of something that's very important in centering prayer. When you first start, you get what we call the warm fuzzies. I think Lawrence has a different term for it, but you feel good. It really feels good. Your body is comfortable. You get a numbness about it. Things are totally awesome. But as you progress, you start doing what we call unloading. And that's when that little guy in that computer room starts sending up stuff that's pretty, first time that you got into trouble, the first time that you got into a fight, the first time that you did something that you're really ashamed of, you bury it and put another layer on that onion skin. You keep putting layer after layer after layer. As you go through the process, those layers are going to come up. And sometimes they're not pretty. They're not pretty at all. But again, use your sacred word, return ever so gently to what you're doing. Let that, I love Thomas Keating's like a feather landing on a piece of cotton, because that's exactly what you did. You're not going to force the issue. This is not something, oh, I'm going to meditate. No, this is something where you use your word, you let the thought go, you stay calm, you stay relaxed, and in the process, you start learning, you start growing, and just learn how to let go. It does carry over to your real life. I was in a situation at Folsom where I almost ended up in a fight. Guys were accusing me. Somebody else had the same nickname I had from a different prison. He showed up at Folsom. The guys thought it was me. He actually got himself in trouble, rolled up in the hole, and was already gone. But these guys came up and started getting in my face. First thing I did was back up against the fence. I had nowhere to go. I'm cornered now. And they're getting closer and closer and closer. Well, the one who was doing the most talking, I looked him straight in the eye and I said, breath. He got the funniest look on his face and said, but I brushed my teeth this morning. That whole escapade, just by using my centering prayer word, breath, I let go of the anger that was getting inside of me. I'm not a pushover. I think I could have handled my own in that situation, but that's not what I wanted to do. So I used breath and I let it go. And right then, another Contemplative Fellowship member came up with a friend of his and said, what's going on? And they explained to him that Frenchie's been here for the last 12 years. He's not the one you're looking for. But that's another situation where centering prayer came out in the real world, and I used it to let go of a problem. If you pay attention, you'll find that you change your reaction and you learn how to let go of stressful situations simply by practicing centering prayer.
Frenchie reminded me of one of the teachings I've heard, that things come up to come out. So I think that unloading is really important to recognize that it's not always going to feel good when we sit to do our practice, but that's part of the healing.
Yep, that gives the spirit power to work. I'm a firm believer that you come to centering prayer with God as you know him. Now, one of the things we prided ourselves at Folsom when we first started the group was it was for everybody. The bottom line, if you're a Muslim, then your higher power that you're opening your heart to is Allah. If you're a Christian, it's the Holy Spirit. If you're Jewish, it's Yahweh. If it doesn't matter what your religious belief is. If you're agnostic, it could be the universe. Whatever your belief is, that's the one you're going to open your heart to, because that's the reality for you. And believe me, the power of the beings in our world that we call God will act and can act and will take care of business.
I've heard it said that consent is an important part of this process. Could you say a little bit about that?
Consent is the whole basis of the practice. When I use my sacred word, I'm consenting to, one, letting go of the thought, and two, I'm consenting to the action of my higher power inside of me. That lets, in my case, I believe in the Holy Spirit. I believe the Holy Spirit acts and teaches me and helps me get through the things that I need to get through. And that's part of the unloading, is the Spirit also, protects you in a way. There's nothing that's brought to you that you can't handle. And that little guy knows what he's throwing up there. But the bottom line is you don't open it up, you don't analyze it, you don't think about it. You just simply say your sacred word and let it go.
Is the sacred word a mantra?
No, it's not a mantra.
A
A mantra
symbol.
is a chant that you continually say over and over and over in your mind to learn how to resolve issues or find peace, find that quiet thing. It's a wonderful thing to practice. I don't practice it myself, but the sacred word is simply one word, and that meaning of that word is your special meaning. So you use the word to let go of thoughts, but it's not a mantra, but it may seem like it because you're constantly repeating it. And that's what a mantra is constantly repeating. But it's not, it's your sacred word. It's not a mantra.
I've heard it is a reminder of my intention to consent to the presence and action of God within me. God as I understand God. And
If it
so that really in the end, the word, the symbol, the sacred word, I don't need it when I'm resting in that little microsecond of silence. I only reach for it when I'm realizing that I'm engaged in my thoughts. That's when I reach for that symbol to remind myself that I'm consenting to God's presence inside.
And that use of that word is what pulls you back from getting involved in all of these thoughts and all of these things that are going on in our head. It's real easy to get locked into it and go right down that little rabbit hole, and you're down there wondering, how did I get here? Oops. Breath. Let's go back to my intent. Let's go back to my silence. Let's go back to relaxing. Let's go back to using what God gave me to use. And it lets me clear my mind and find that peace and that silence. And you choose a word that lets you let go of thoughts, not lead you into other thoughts. One of the things I would not recommend you doing is centering prayer late at night, because it develops energy. And if you do centering prayer at night, you're not going to get some sleep for a little while. The bottom line is your body actually adjusts to it and feels really, really comfortable after you're done. And sometimes you aren't going to go to sleep for a while. So I'd recommend once in the morning, once in the afternoon, 20 minutes per sit.
You have to do 20 minutes?
No. Do what you can, especially in the beginning. As you adjust to this and you start doing it more and you get more practice, you'll find yourself looking to, oops, went over. It's been 25 minutes. So sometimes you can get so involved that you lose track of time. There was one night I was sitting on my rack and I started meditating. And the next thing you know, the cop's asking me what's going on 3 hours later. I haven't moved. And he comes by for count and he wants to know what I am doing. Am I dead? Am I, what's going on? So he kind of, shall we say, rudely brought me back to reality when I wasn't ready to come back to reality.
How about the 2 minutes of silence at the end of the prayer? It can be very jarring to the system to not give it a couple minutes.
That's very, very important, Chris, because when you're doing centering prayer, and if you have a session where you're really unloading, it's real easy to take all that, whatever it is, if you're dealing with anger, you'll take that anger right out with you into the real world. If you're dealing with sorrow, you'll take that right out with you into the real world if you're not careful. So that couple of minutes at the end of your sit is very important. Think about things you enjoy doing. You definitely need to end your meditation. You just can't, okay, I'm done. It doesn't work that way. That's not healthy and it's not safe for you. The bottom line is just think about something pleasurable, just a few minutes. Some people say the Our Father, the Lord's Prayer. Some people think of scriptures. Some people think of their wives. Some people think of other things, but it's got to be pleasant for you and put a distinction between your meditation and returning to the real world.
Can you say what you mean by thought?
Thoughts are anything. Actually, your little computer guy down there is always constantly throwing up thoughts. But the toilet flushing in the bathroom next to your cell, the guy yelling from one dorm to another, that's just the thought. Anything that would distract you from your silence and from your centering prayer is considered a thought. So even your music, if you put music on your head, it could be a thought. Okay? If you can learn how to let go of that and let go of all the other crap going on, you're definitely going to get to do some centering prayer.
And how about emotions? Like, how do you deal with strong emotions?
Use your word and let it go. Unfortunately, those are going to come up. Sometimes, I've come out of sits and I'm bawling like a baby. And I don't even know why. All I know is what was coming up, and I was letting go of everything and doing what I was supposed to do. And I wake up in my sit with tears going down my cheeks. Sometimes I know why, sometimes I don't know why. But again, it's all about the practice and learning how to let go. Say that sacred word. Let go of those thoughts, whatever that thought is.
What's the importance of the gentleness? Like when it says ever so gently return to your sacred word.
This is not a forced issue. You don't control this. I can't say, okay, computer guy, I'm ready to work on my divorce now. Or I'm ready to work on the argument I had with my wife. Or I'm ready to work. No, that's not the way this works. What comes up, you use your sacred word and you let it go. That little computer room guy knows what he's doing. He will send up things that you definitely need to reclassify. And you reclassify it by letting it go back to that computer room without analyzing it, without opening it up, without getting into it. And you simply say your sacred word and let that go. It's got to be a gentle process. You cannot force this. You cannot say, okay, I'm going to have a good sit today and have a good sit. Some sits are not good. Some sits are a little bit rough on you. But you're not analyzing the thoughts. You're not getting into the things that are being thrown up. You're simply I realize I'm thinking about this. And gently, don't force it. Don't push it. Just relax into it and say, breath.
Some of us do have the tendency to use a sacred word, something as a baseball bat.
Ooh.
Certain thoughts.
No.
I don't want to think that. And I say, bam.
Okay, breath, knock this one out of the park. Nope, that's not the way this is supposed to work. The whole thing is we don't control what's going on here. This is opening our hearts and opening our minds to God. God as you know him. So therefore, can you control God? I don't think so. And whoever's in that little computer room, I think he's in direct communication with that guy upstairs. And he knows what he's doing. And slow but sure, he'll keep you may have some really good times. Okay, that's fine. I enjoyed that. And then you may have some bad times. Okay, that's good. I enjoyed that when I may not have. But the bottom line is you just got to learn how to let go.
I think I'm ready to start the journey, so to speak now.
Cool. One thing we forgot to mention and haven't talked about was centering prayer. You can do centering prayer by yourself. You can do centering prayer with another person, or you can do centering prayer with a group. Group dynamics are totally different than silent centering prayer by yourself. There seems to be an energy that's developed when you're centering and when you're with a group of, like if the 6 of us were centering, the energy that we create is greater than the energy that each of us put into it. So centering prayer in a group, I would highly recommend. But if you don't have a group, do it. Just do it yourself. You'll find benefit from it and it'll help change your life. And I went from an animal that deserved to go to prison to somebody who I can respect today. I'm pleased with who I am today. I've gotten rid of a lot of the garbage that sent me to prison. I've overcome a lot of the anger and the issues, and centering prayer is the key that I use to do that. When I find myself getting frustrated, I find myself getting angry, breath. Let it go. It's not worth it. You know better than this, breath. And sometimes, you sit there and you're winding yourself up like a little wind-up toy, and you say, no, breath. And let it go. So it's good in the sits and it's good outside the sits.
And there's also a sense in which whenever we sit down and engage the practice, we are with others who have engaged the practice. We're connected.
Yep, we were blessed at Folsom that we had kind of like a outside sponsor group. We met on Monday night. Well, they met on Monday night. We centered at exit time. They made sure that they were centering prayer at the same time. And there was a very real connection between the two groups.
Also, an outside the walls centering group meets on Sundays at 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern time. And so if anybody gets out and wants to look us up, you can find information on the Contemplative Outreach website, contemplativeoutreach.org, and find your way to the Prison Outreach Service Team's webpage. And we can get you connected with the Outside the Walls group, or while you're inside, you can pray at the same time. Join us and be with us in prayer.
And that's at 5 o'clock on Sunday night, my time. That's Pacific Coast time. Join us. You're more than welcome. You'll find at least 3 of us there every week.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
That's it for this video. Be sure to check out our other videos. And you can write to us at Contemplative Outreach, Prison Outreach Service Team, 1560 Union Valley Road, number 909, West Milford, New Jersey, 07480.